Hello, everybody, and welcome to FinTech Futures FinTech Focus video series, a new series where we will be honing in on different topics across the industry. This one today is going to be focusing on digital identities and cybersecurity, and I'm very happy to be joined today by Mike Engle, the co-founder and chief security officer of 1Kosmos. Mike, how are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Looking forward to our chat today.
Thank you. Yes, well, we've got a quite an exciting conversation ahead of us. But before we get going, why don't you give our audience a little preview of who you are, what your role is, and most importantly, what One Cosmos does.
Yeah. Fintech is near and dear to my heart. I, quote, grew up at companies like Merrill Lynch and Lehman Brothers back in the day. Spent over 12 years building an information security program at Lehman Brothers. And so that set me really deep down the path of cybersecurity and protecting assets and things like that. Uh,
Mm.
After that, Lehman kind of went a little bit bankrupt. I moved into the venture-backed startup world. And my latest endeavor, 1Kosmos, is focusing on proving who people are remotely or in person, and then leveraging that proof to add trust to the internet. It's something that's really missing today. So we think we're at the right place, the right time there. So we'll talk more about that for sure.
I mean, it's very, very topical at the moment, the whole conversation around digital IDs and of course having your identity almost packaged in a way online and keeping that secure, right on topic at the moment with other global headlines. One Cosmos, of course, you're the co-founder. How has been the experience of building the company?
It's been amazing. Yeah. So we have a team that's kind of been there and done it, either in the industry as practitioners or building other companies. So we, did the things that startups do. We prototyped, we tested it, build, measure, learn, right? Those types of things, and really hit our stride in the last few years. Timing is everything, right? You could be the Facebook, or you could be the predecessor, right? And so we think that with the timing of the types of attacks, focusing now on identity, that we have been, we just got lucky with having the vision 10 years ago that's now really taking effect today. And that is, just the types of attacks we're seeing are scattered spider, attacks on the service desks and help desks, not knowing who you're hiring, not knowing who's opening accounts and things like that. So
Mm,
it's been really a great experience. Just a little bit about 1Kosmos. The word cosmos means universe in Greek. And when we set out on this journey in really that kind of like 2017, 18, it was let's have one identity for anybody wherever they go on the internet or in the cosmos, right? And so that's starting to take form now globally, where you have concepts of identity, digital wallets, and things like that. So real
mm.
enablers for getting business done on the internet.
Well, let's drive down into that global view then, shall we? As sort of like to kick off this conversation. I mean, what can you tell me about the global state of play of authentication processes and why might they be growing weaker right now?
Yeah, so it's funny when going back to Lehman Brothers, all there was when I started was username and password. We didn't even have 2FA, really. You had secure ID tokens. Well, I deployed my first secure ID server in the mid 90s or something, late 90s. Little tokens generate a number, right? And if you think about it, that's still where 90 some percent of the industry is, with a little code that you get that backs up your password, right? Companies are proud today when they finally roll out 2FA because they send you an email with a link or with a 6-digit code. And sadly, that is the state of authentication for the masses. And not only are the passwords weak and vulnerable, as we all know, but the 2FAs as well. Because if I have access to any part of your digital world, your email, your phone, or if I can convince you over the phone to do something, it all crumbles. So I'd say the state of authentication is still terrible, right? Now there's a lot of promising technologies There's things like passkeys, which are, phishing resistant. There's biometrics, which bring a real source of identity to the mix, and we're experts in biometrics. So those are two things I think that are going to be game changers in the industry is the use of biometrics combined with digital certificates.
Definitely. We're going to be looking a little bit more at that sort of technology combination in this conversation. But I just want to drive down on you just gave the example of like 2FA and the phone example. Can you maybe like expand a little bit on how fraudsters are exploiting this weakness right now? And what do you think the true cost is to the end customer?
Oh, it's massive. So, it's a little bit different in consumer versus enterprise. So, but they're both really the same problem. It's can you trust the way you log in today or the way your people log in, your customers or your employees? And the answer is for the most part, not really, because everything starts with username and password. And we know that people reuse passwords. They're easy to guess, they're easy to steal. Um, so that foundation is broken. When you layer in a second factor that's based on something similar, something you can get, guess, right, get access to in general, then your A plus B, the password plus the second factor, are almost the same thing. So bad actors know how to reach into somebody's digital world and get one or both of those. And once you have that, then everything else falls apart, right? Because that's really the front door. And an example is um, the phishing has really taken on. It's been around forever, right? Phishing, trying to convince somebody to click a link. That's how it used to be. Well, now the phishing has gotten very aggressive. They'll call you, they'll email you. They have very sophisticated campaigns. They're using AI to spearhead and orchestrate all these things. So if you just let your guard down for a second, it's really scary what can happen.
I mean, you're absolutely on the money there. I mean, to give you an example from my own personal life, this year alone, I've had my bank details stolen twice
Hmm.
from weak passwords, and the cost for me was that my card was instantly frozen. I only have one bank card, and I couldn't use a cash machine, couldn't use it at all. So yeah, there's a real point to be made here. Bringing in 1Kosmos then, I mean, the company and led by yourself, you're leveraging over 10 decades worth of experience here. Can you tell me a little bit more about the combination that you provide between indisputable digital identity proofing and passwordless authentication? And then where does sort of like the biometric technology bit come in?
Yeah, absolutely. So proofing, start with a basic definition. It's how do you prove who somebody is? Well, for example, I don't really know that you are Tyler right now. I kind of think you are because we've exchanged some emails, we've had a couple calls or whatever. I see your picture on LinkedIn, but are you Tyler? Maybe, right? And
Maybe
so that's
not.
the point is how do I establish trust between you and me? Well, the way we would do it is I can engage with you five different ways, send you a link, have you scan a QR code. If I'm in person, I can ask you to just take out your government credential. That is a source of truth about you, right? So what type of credentials do you have on your person or in your home? Passport, driving license, state ID, etc. So that's your source of truth. You could hold it up to the camera, you could use your phone and scan it, and that creates kind of a point in time that says this is Tyler. And in that, we'll check 100 things about that credential: the font, the shape, the picture, the holograms, all those overt security features, the front, the back, does everything match? That is far superior than the way that it's been done for the last 30 years. Historically, we ask you for information. Give me your national ID number and your date of birth and your home address. Of course, that stuff has all been stolen a dozen times yearly. So that's all useless. So now I have your credential. Now the missing piece is how do I know it's your credential? Well, I can get the information and look it up in the driving system or the government system and say, yeah, there is somebody named Tyler who lives at that address. So that looks good. The second part is to match your face to the face on the credential. If I do those things, I'm kind of triangulating the document, the source of the document, your face, and it all comes together. And I have a very high percentage of confidence now that you are really Tyler. Go ahead, open the bank account or wire 100,000 pounds or whatever it would be, right? So that's proofing. And there's different levels of it, and you can do that in stages, but that's kind of the gist of it is give me some proof. I'll verify that proof, and I'll make sure that it's really you with your biometrics. Does that all make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds like sort of the golden trio of identity authentication. Last month, FinTech Futures, we did a really interesting webinar on deepfake. So I'm just like in that light, I'm starting to wonder like, what if those 3 points are all synthetic, or they've all been like harvested really intelligently to be sort of like bulletproof? Does it still work in that case?
It works, and that is a bit of the cat and mouse game that is
Mm.
evolving. So if you're using AI now and you're an AI video or an AI picture, I'll detect
Mm.
it using AI detection, deepfake detection, right? And there's all kinds of like spectrographic ways and looking for little hallucination, like artifacts and things like that that we do really in real time as part of that. So the bad actors are making bad things. We're using technology to detect that. That's part of it. And the other is checking, so those sources of truth. Do you live at 123 Main Street? Those are can all be known and guessed as well. So it's a combination of verifying, looking for bad actor signals, but then a really important part of the process is contacting you at a known address of record as well. So what are your known addresses of record? Well, you might have been using the same email and the same phone number or the same home postal address for the past 10 years. So that's another step is if I can reach out to you on those known things, that's hard for a bad actor to be able to receive your text messages, right? Or
Mm.
verify that you have that phone. And so it is really is it's almost like a progression of things that we check along the way. And the level of how deep we go depends on the risk of the transaction. Right? If you're opening up a new grocery store account, I don't need to do all those verifications. But if I'm
Mm.
using 200,000 frequent flyer miles, you might want to go another step, right, in the process.
Mm. Yeah, that is like a definite concern, I guess. But with 1Kosmos, I mean, you guys have been doing this for so long. I mean, yourself for a number of years. So it's good that you have that insight and know how to detect and draw up methods which sort of combat this from every angle. In terms of angles, I'm wondering, in when it comes to things like in-person versus like remote verification, how does it differ in that instance?
Well, yeah, certainly the attack profile is much different. Remote, I could have 100,000 bots attacking me every minute, right? So you have to do things differently. But the action of the things you do is very similar. So we're deployed in one of the largest retailers here in the US and overseas as well, similar. And there, the bad actors for years will walk up and present a fake driver's license. And the retail associate, they can't tell. I mean, these things are really good, right? The AI makes the documents. And they're bleeding, this one retailer was bleeding almost $100 million a year through fraud, people, taking merchandise on credit. We implemented just scan the front and back of the license, 3 seconds. And our agent would just verify the authenticity and take that guesswork off the retail associate because they don't know how. They can't. The human eye can't, but the camera can, right? So we completely shut that vector down, 98% reduction in 3 months. The difference there is you don't have to go to the lengths of then verifying the home address. You're in person with them, right? And you don't even have to do the selfie check. You're looking at them, right? So it's really a matter of the level of friction you need to introduce to the process based on the risk of the transaction again. So we completely shut down that vector. Now, fast forward and maybe the bad actors get a license that's completely indistinguishable, then we might have to implement a second control. Like, do you have the phone number of John Smith in your possession? Right. So that's again, you could add these layers along the way.
So it's very much like One Cosmos takes it like a case by case approach and finding out what's best in the situation.
Based on risk. That's right. Based on the risk of what you're trying to
Mm.
accomplish. And there's also the risk of alienating a customer, right? That
Yeah,
is a
yeah.
constant battle that heads of digital experience and things like that worry about. If you introduce one extra click into a new account onboarding, you lose X% of new accounts. So, it is really a guided tour to make sure that and you have to measure everything you change. Is it introducing a problem or is it enhancing and maybe a little bit of friction is worth saving $10 million, right? So all part of the justification.
Mm. Definitely. Can you tell me where sort of where One Cosmos's use of blockchain then comes into that mix?
Yeah. So, everybody's heard of blockchain now, right? And Bitcoin. And some of the best parts of blockchain really apply themselves well to digital identity. For example, if you think about a digital coin, a Bitcoin or an Ethereum coin, it can't be just guessed and stolen, right? If I could reach in and take your Bitcoin wallet address, I would have your $100 million today, right? So why not have your digital identity stored in the same type of immutable, impossible to steal place, right? It seems like it's a perfect match for the technology. And the other piece of it is knowing what's been done to a coin. So you know that this coin was used with this other wallet, and there's like this immutable ledger. You can't go back and change it. So if I can prove that I'm the person who opened the bank account and logged in because there's an immutable record of that, it gives me confidence that nobody else could be involved in that. So it really is about the security and privacy that really needs to go along with your digital identity being, spread out all over the internet.
Mm. That is really, really reassuring and sort of like being able to identify the benefits of each technology. We spoke, Mike, earlier about sort of the remote versus in-person case. Can you tell me how One Cosmos' suite of solutions differs in like a business to customer versus business to business case? I mean, you alluded to it a little bit in one of your earlier answers.
Yeah, business to customer, you can do all these amazing triangulations and you pick and choose along the way, along the journey, where and how you introduce them. So, opening a new account, maybe have a little bit of friction, get it started. So you do KYC and those things that you need to do so to not get in trouble with the regulators. But maybe you want to re-verify if you detect something wrong, like you're coming from a country I've never seen before and you want to take another step. And so you'll do those things progressively so that you can not alienate the customer. In a B2B scenario, you really want to have it locked up on day one. And what you're seeing now is third party logistics and vendors that you're working with are becoming the weak point. And so one weak link in your business to business environment and somebody gets into your entire environment and you get ransomware. So you have to have the shields up and you have to kind of demand a level of identity on day one. No exceptions allowed, right? Not quite that black and white, but that you get the spirit of where I'm going. On B2C, if one out of 100 million accounts gets compromised, it's bad, but it's not all of them. In B2B, it can be all of them. So you really need to have that chain of custody for the identity on day one. And we're seeing that now be adopted by enterprises, or at least it's really on their top 10 list of things to do.
Definitely. I mean, there's such a huge push now to being secure, and you've really done well to highlight the heightened threats that the B2B use case experiences. In terms of, with that, a lot of businesses will be implementing their own sort of like security systems or identity management systems. Can you tell me a little bit more about, you know, if I was to select 1Kosmos, would that be like a rip and replace integration? Would it be like an additional layer on top? Can you just tell me a little bit more about the integration process?
Yeah, it can be. So going to the workforce example, um, it's really adding things that have been missing for years. So do you verify who you're hiring, employees or contractors? And the answer is not really. Most organizations, they kind of know. They don't know who they're interviewing. Going back to, is this Tyler? And so we're seeing a real influx of inquiries about, I need to verify the identity on day one of talent acquisition because people are hiring other people to interview. And then on day one, a different person shows up. How do you know? So that now you're letting bad actors into the front door. And the North Koreans have really um, perfected the art of getting hired under fake identities or hiring others to do it for them. So um, it's now time for that that level of scrutiny all the way back in day one of your engagement with somebody. And same goes now for high valued accounts online for consumers as well. So in that example, to answer your question, it's doing things you haven't done. It's a platform that allows you to say, who is this? And then let them into your Microsoft or your Ping or your Okta or whatever it is that does all of your account management. However,
Mm.
there are dozens of legacy 2FA things out there that can't handle that level of identity verification. They're add-ons, they're friction, they're only moderate in their level of security, and we can replace those. So if you think about how many different ways do you log into systems today over the course of a week? And your Google Authenticator, your one-time code to an email. Then you go, I don't know, some things are just password. We can consolidate all of those into one user experience layer that has all these options in it, and you can turn them on and off over time and migrate to what we call like a real identity-based passwordless experience. So the answer is it can be a real hybrid. We will replace where it makes sense, but we're going to complement where the processes are missing.
That's really, really fascinating. Thank you, Mike. In terms of like 1Kosmos, can you tell us any more of like future developments or what your focus will be for the year ahead?
Yeah, we're really focusing on three areas. So your AI agents are starting to have a first name, right? They're starting to do things on your behalf. They're doing research. They're buying plane tickets. Like all these things are promised. And what's missing is how do I know it's my agent? How do I trust it? How do I allow that agent to talk to others? So there's a whole identity of AI agents that we'll have some real exciting releases around that. And then there's the concept of your own digital wallet. So do you have a digital wallet today? I guess it
Uh,
depends
I,
on.
d-
Sure.
I do, yes, I do have a digital wallet.
All right. So people
Mm.
think of their Apple Wallet and their Google Wallet as their digital wallet, and that is where you keep your credit cards and maybe your concert tickets. But typically your identity's not in there yet. You're seeing it.
Mm.
Apple and Google are starting Apple made a big announcement last week that your passport will be able to go into your wallet. That's a game changer. So we can accept those digital versions out of that wallet, which think about how much easier that is than pulling your driver's license out and holding it up to this camera, right? It's game changer. And I'm sure, you look like a kind of guy that might use Apple Pay at a retailer or Google Pay. Once you do that, you don't want to go back to pulling that plastic out of your pocket. And so that's the experience we're enabling. We have a whole wallet platform that companies can adopt and embrace to have your employee identity or your customer identity. And now you have a real tight relationship between that person and your offerings. So that's the second area. And the third is we're able to work with people, we call them frontline associates that can't use a phone. So imagine using Apple Pay without a phone. Doesn't work so good, does it? So we have two solutions that can work with anybody, whether or not they have a phone. And one is it's a fingerprint reader that enterprises would use where you just walk up, tap it, and you're in. So it's like Apple Pay, but your thumb becomes the thing, or your finger.
Oh, that's
And so
cool.
that takes all the guesswork out of, there's no password anymore. And I can also do it just by having you glance into the camera, much like Face ID or Windows Hello, except you don't have to have all that heavy, you know, enroll and enroll on each device. It works anywhere. So those three things are real game changers and pretty unique to 1Kosmos and how we can deliver them to customers.
Well, it's really, really fantastic to hear of those developments. They look really, really cool. I like the finger scanner. I think that's really, really, really interesting. That concludes my conversation with you today, Mike Engle. Thank you so much for joining me, and of course for shining the spotlight on this important area of identity authentication and cybersecurity. This has been a wonderful conversation for our FinTech Focus series. And for anybody watching who would like to know more about 1Kosmos and what the company is able to provide, then I'm sure Mike would be more than happy for you to reach out online and he'll answer your questions then. Mike, it's been a pleasure to speak to you today. Thank you so much for joining me. And for everybody watching, thank you. And until next time, goodbye.
Thank you so much. Take care.